the faith, the commitment, the sacrifice you have made to make us who we are.
I am really, hata kama ikuta anapitia hapo.
Serikali hii ambayo imeongozwa na Mheshimiwa Rais William Ruto ndiyo itakuwa serikali ya kumaliza kutoka Kenya hii shida na aibu ya uhalifu na kutojali sheria.
We have to work hard so that we can justify the faith, the commitment, the sacrifice you have made to make us who we are.
I am
Yes or yes?
Yes. Not yes.
We were worried, Chair.
Yeah?
We were worried.
Yeah. The meeting is for the CS.
Yeah.
If I said PS, sorry, that was a mistake.
I shall give before this committee on the matters under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth.
In front of us, we have 15 questions to go through. At the end of it, they can be able to ask questions, clarifications, comments. But as yes, please, can now take charge.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. Equitable and our public service, the diversity of the people of our country, and national cohesion and the inclusion of all the people of Kenya society that reflects the diversity of our people. Having said that, Honorable Chair and members, as you have correctly pointed out, questions, and we shall answer all of them as required. Recruited in the last 3 recruitments with their gender, age, and ethnicity. Number 6, the ratio between the national population and employment proportion in the institution based on the 2019 National Population and Housing Census. Number 7, status of compliance of the Kenya Prison Service with Section 7 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act of 2008. Number 8, the challenges the institution has prison service in its bid to enhance diversity of employees and the mitigation measures to curb the challenges. 9, measures put in place to promote persons living with disabilities work environment. Number 10, institutional policy on recruitment. Number 11, state 2016. Number 12, total of goods and services per financial year since ability whose goods and services have been procured by the institution since the law was enacted. Number also Act 2015 since January of the 30% reservation of public procurement for the disadvantaged groups, including proposal
So that we don't have strangers in the house.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, and sorry for coming in late. I'm Duncan Maina Malenge, Member of Parliament Nyeri Town Constituency and a member of this committee.
Mr. Minister, sorry for interruption. You can now continue.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, with regard to those 15 questions, I state as follows. With regard to the distribution in terms of gender of the officers of the Kenya Prison Service, the distribution is as follows. Out of a total of 31,227 officers, 23,878 are men, 7,349 are women, making the proportion of women, 23.5%, which threshold that is provided for in the law. And we are working hard. We've taken a policy position to correct this mess. I've already engaged the Principal Secretary responsible and the Commissioner General of Prisons to make sure that that gap is filled, is addressed. Current number of uniform officers at the Kenya Prison Service in terms of ethnicity. Of my written statement, I have provided distribution of the ethnicity of all the in the Kenya Prison Service, and the members have the copies on page 2, the first table. The distribution, and the only comment I can make there, we do not have a Kenyan community with 0. We have 1. Kenyan European, you have 1. And then Kenyan Arab, we have 2. And then the rest are provided in that. With regard to uniform officers of the Kenya Prison Service in terms of age, all our officers, again, with the youngest chair, (20 years) we have 72, 21 years 194, in service 63 years we have 1 person, 62, 61 years we have 4 people or 4 officers, 59 years we have 301, meaning they should be retiring in the last 1 year, and so forth. I would like to, because members of that table which has the details for every officer's age, into page 4, page 2 and 3. The comment I would like to, first and foremost, as a policy, we have taken the position officers who reach 60, they must retire. This will help us to and also create room for promotion, especially at senior level management. So as a policy, a single contract beyond 60. And also for those officers, and there are not many, when the current extensions which were done before this administration took expired, they will not be renewed. And that is a policy position. On the same point, in terms of distribution per age, we want to ensure that the bulk of our officers to be at the most productive stages of our workforce, of our officers, and I will comment about that when we look at the distribution in terms of how many officers are in senior management and what are their ages in a short while. On page 4 of my written statement, Honorable Chair, in response to the question whether the Kenya Prison Service has complied with Article 54(2) of the Constitution by promoting persons with disability, the answer is in the affirmative. And the reason, I'm on page 4 of my statement, the reason is there is a table we have provided of how we have promoted 92 persons with disability within the Kenya Prison Service. First, Senior Superintendent of Prisons, 3. We have 3 members of PWDs. Chief Inspector of Prisons, 4 members or 4 members of staff or 4 officers. Inspector of Prisons, 5 officers. Senior Sergeant, 10 officers. Sergeant of Prisons, 14. Corporal of Prisons, 12. Constable of Prisons, 44. Total 92. And at the moment, with regard to persons with disability, the highest rank we have in the service is the Superintendent of Prisons, 3 officers. Next, Chair, we've been asked to tell this committee the Kenya Prison Service at senior management level, middle level, and lower cadre in terms of gender, age, and ethnicity. And here, I think I've already given the 462 male, 137 female, 599. And the women, the female is 22.8%. With regard to age, I've again given that table on page 4 to, I think I'd covered that bit. Ethnicity I'd covered on page 5 all the way to 6. Yes, I think I should go to page 7, Chair, with your permission. Middle level management. Middle level management, Chair and members, refer to the ranks between Inspector of Prisons and Chief Inspector. That's what we consider middle level management. And here we have a total of 1,673 officers, out of which 1,051 are male and 400. The youngest officer, who is between an Inspector of Prisons and a Chief Inspector of Prisons, is 22 years, which is commendable, because it means this is an officer who has been in service for maybe 3 with 1, and then we have 11 who are 24, 17 who are 25 years old, 34 who are 26 years old, and the table proceeds on page 7 and spills over to page 8, and again 59 years we have 70 people, the officers in this band. 61 years 1 person, 1 officer, and 62 years 1 officer. Total 1,673. The same.
I see some new people whom I don't know, and we don't want the strangers in this house. So let's know who they are. If you have not introduced, please, and you have come in, huh? Can you introduce yourself?
Governor Kanata, welcome. You must be lost.
We know you. You are one of us, so welcome. Okay. Anybody else who have introduced? I can see. Please, can you introduce yourself? The man in Miwani. Have you introduced yourself? Oh, okay. You moved there. You changed position. Mheshimiwa Wera, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Good morning, all of you. My name is Ongondo Were, MP Kasipul, and a member of National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity, Kenya National Assembly.
Okay. No any other? Okay. Waziri, you can continue. You'll have interruptions as usual.
No, it's okay, Chair. On the issue of middle level management, distribution in terms of ethnicity, the table is provided on page 8. It goes all the way to the middle of page 9, and we have provided the diversity of the Kenyan people who are represented by officers in this band of middle level management, inspector to chief inspector of prisons. But Chair, I forgot to say with regard to the age table which I discussed, the age table which is on page 7 to 8, our policy direction going forward is to make sure that more officers reach middle level management earlier in their career than what is shown here. The level of inspector and chief inspector would like to see going forward officers who are in their early 30s should be the majority, so that by the time they age towards 40, they escalated to senior management, so that again we can have clear succession management, and that will help us do away with issues of extending contracts and so forth and so on. In other words, we would want more young people, more officers who are younger to occupy the senior management positions going forward. The next matter is junior level. These are prison constables to senior sergeant ranks. I'm on page 9 at the bottom. We have a total, the bulk of our officers actually are in the junior level. As I said, we have a total of 31,000 approximately. But 28,000 of these 38,000 are in this junior level. And for us as a ministry, this is something we need to address also, because that number is inordinately large. Recently, we carried out some promotions. That's what has even helped a bit, because for a long time, for many years, promotions had been stagnated. And I want to thank both the PS and the Commissioner General for that exercise that took place, I think, some 2-3 months ago. Within that junior level, we have a total of 28,955 officers. The male are 22,165. The female are 6,790. And clearly we have fallen again below the threshold. In terms of age, the distribution of these officers provided for in the table that starts at the bottom of page 9 and spills over to page 10 and ends on page 11 at the top. And the distribution there, the youngest officer is 19 years, we have 2 officers, and then 20 years we have 72 officers, 21 years we have 194 officers, and so on and so on. With regard to ethnicity, distribution by ethnicity of junior level ranks of our officers, the table on page 11 gives the numbers, and it ends at the middle of page 11. Honorable Chair and members, the total number of employees prior to the 2010 Constitution and their ethnicity is provided for in the table that starts on page 12 and ends on page 13, and the total number before the coming into force of the current constitution was 20,847. This means that within the last 13 years, that number has escalated to the current 31,000 from 20,847. Honorable Chair and members, we've also been asked to state the total number of officers recruited in the last 3 recruitments and their distribution in terms of gender, age, and ethnicity. And that information is provided for in the table that starts, the tables that start on page 13 at the bottom, of the officers recruited in the last 3 intakes or recruitments. A total of 7,167 officers have been recruited, out of which 5,036 are male and 2,125 are female. In terms of age, Chair and members, the distribution of those 7,161 officers is provided there, and what I can note there from that table is that the oldest recruit was 34 years, where we had 21 officers. And I think this also includes not just the servicemen, but also the other, like specialists. We have specialist officers of very various professions who require, and also even graduates, cadets, who require to have gone to university and even with some experience. So the oldest is 34 years, 21 officers. The rest of the distribution in terms of age is provided there. The 23, 24 years seem to have been, like the majority. In terms of the ethnicity, the table is on page 14, and it goes all the way to page 15. That is the ethnicity, and I have noted with concern for the last 3 recruitments that we didn't have a Swahili Shirazi recruit. Kenya Arab also is a 0, Kenya European is a 0, and I'm not sure there are applicants also, because again, we have to advertise and people have to express interest. And then there's a community known as the Gosha, also 0. Perhaps we'll be looking at whether or not there have been persons from these diversities who had expressed interest. It will not be good to have successful recruitments, let's say successive recruitments, where you have some communities reflecting 0 unless that justification can be provided. Honorable Chair and members, with regard to the compliance of the Kenya Prison Service with the Section 7 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act of 2008 and Article 232 of the Constitution of Kenya, we state as follows: A, that that is on page 17, Honorable Chair, page 17, I'm sorry. As already demonstrated through the table on page 1 of this statement, Kenya Prison Service staff represents the diversity of the people of Kenya, and therefore generally, as a general principle, there is no discrimination in the recruitment or even promotion within the Kenya Prison Service. Number 2, no ethnic community represents more than 1/3. No single ethnic community represents more than 1/3 of the total Kenya Prison Service uniformed staff population, and therefore the department or the service has complied with the above section. Number 3, for fair dispensation of disciplinary cases, the service has constituted the Prison's Human Resource Advisory Committee, which deliberates on all staff matters, and this committee uses or is guided by the human resource policy of the ministry or of the government of 2016, and the Public Service Commission disciplinary manual, standing orders, and of course the Prisons Act Cap 90, which is the enabling law. Honorable Chair and members, what efforts have we made to enhance our compliance with the law? 1, strict recruitment policy. And all recruitment is done at sub-county level. And the reason why recruitment is done at sub-county level is for us to ensure that no community or even sub-community is omitted. Because within a sub-county, you can map out the diversity issues easily, as opposed to whether if you are dealing with a county or even a cluster of counties. So we make sure that the recruitment takes place at all gazetted sub-counties of the Republic of Kenya to ensure that we get every diversity considered for recruitment. Number 2, in areas where academic requirements are not met, and we have had areas where, because of historical issues, we have not had academically qualified recruits. So what we've been doing is to engage with the Public Service Commission for waiver of some of the requirements on the basis of the affirmative action requirements of our Constitution. So that the fact that a community or an area cannot produce people who meet the general standards for reasons which are justifiable, our Constitution allows us to apply affirmative action. And we have been engaging the Public Service Commission to lower and vary the requirements to make sure that no part of the country and no community is left out in terms of representation in the Kenya Prison Service. And finally, advertisements on recruitment, we make sure is highly publicized in both print and electronic media, and normally we provide a notice of not less than 21 days. We publish it in advance to make sure that people know there is recruitment, and nobody hears that a recruitment occurred last month or last week and there was no notice. Honorable Chair, I thought I should wait until you interrupt me. No, I just saw some guests.
Thank you, Chair. My apologies for coming in late. I'm Gogo Nesmas, Member of Parliament for Kajiado North. Thank the powerful and the good CS for coming this morning.
Protect me, Chair, from... I need protection.
Okay.
I need protection.
You will be highly protected.
Thank you, Chair.
You are safe in this place.
Now, Honorable Chair, with regard to the challenges the Kenya Prison Service is facing in a bid to ensure enhanced diversity of employees and the mitigation measures, I would like to respond as follows. First, there is a resistance to change, and we are handling this through training modules on diversity, equity, inclusion, trying to inculcate among ourselves, among our officers, that inclusivity and diversity and equity is the fundamental requirements of our constitution, which must be adhered with, so that every person responsible for policy implementations, policy action, is informed by these requirements of our constitution. Number two, we have had challenges around training, and we are trying to sensitize officers on to ensure that they are conscious about what their actions mean for the enhancement of diversity. We have a challenge related to generation gaps, and we are trying to, as you've seen, we have all manner of generations in our workforce, and we are trying to enhance team building exercises, and also to denounce generational stereotyping and raise generation awareness within the workplace. We are also encouraging knowledge sharing across officers from different age groups to encourage mixes in office and duty posts, and encouraging teamwork. As I've already noted, Chair, we have a challenge of gender inequality within the Kenya Prison Service, and first and foremost, we are implementing a gender and anti-discrimination awareness campaign within the Kenya Prison Service, and also working hard to meet the requirements of the law by affording adequate and equal opportunities for appointment, training, career advancement for both male and female officers. And I am very keen on this inequality gap being addressed in the shortest time possible. And me and my colleagues are working hard to make sure that that happens. We also have a challenge related to ethnic and cultural differences, and because of the different backgrounds of our officers, and again that is being addressed. And then we are also trying to look around all our correctional facilities, all our prisons facilities, to make sure that other than the macro level, other than the national composition, no single prison, no single facility is composed of staff or officers who, for example, exceed the constitutional thresholds. For example, no prison, individual prison facility should be manned or composed by staff more than a third of which are from one ethnic community, because diversity has to be looked at from the global national perspective, but also at facility institutional perspective. I'm on page 18, Honorable Chair. The measures that the Kenya Prison Service has put in place to promote persons with disability-friendly work environment include: 1, the service facilitates the appointment of the Departmental Disability Inclusion Committee to spearhead disability mainstreaming in the department in order to comply with the government policy on affirmative action for persons with disability. Number 2, the service ensures provision of equal promotion opportunities, as I've demonstrated in the past table, to qualified persons with disability. In other words, no one would be denied promotion simply because they have a disability. And number 3, equal training opportunities are accorded to persons with disabilities, and deployment is done based on individual needs. And number 4, the service has initiated collaboration with partners with the aim of supporting persons with disability by providing services that include mental health and developing strategies that address the gaps of persons with disabilities in the department, among others. Honorable Chair, Honorable members, pursuant to Article 234(5) of the Constitution of Kenya, Section 31 of the Public Service Commission Act 2017 and the Public Service Commission regulations, the Public Service Commission delegates the human resource powers and functions through delegation instruments to the authorized officer. And to answer the question around the recruitment process, I would like to tell the committee that the recruitment process is guided by the following procedure. 1, declaration of vacant posts. I'm on page 18, where vacant posts are declared. Number 2, advertisement of the vacant posts. And number 3, the recruitment of prison constables. And on recruitment also, I'm on page 19 on top. Other than the prison constables, we also recruit cadets and technicians. These are diploma and certificate holders on different entry level, guided by the scheme of service of the Kenya Prison Service, and university graduates as cadets in the fields related to correctional services. Upon recruitment, the recruits are trained, or they go through an initial training of 9 months, but for cadets it takes 13 months. It's longer. Honorable Chair, honorable members, with regard to 30% reservation for public procurement for disadvantaged groups since 2016, the table on page 19 shows that except for the year 2020-2021, the other years under scrutiny, we have not reached the 30% AGPO requirement, but 2020 we exceeded it tremendously, actually, because the percentage was 58.5%. And the table also shows how much of that procurement has been done on the basis of the principle of Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. Honorable Chair and members, the total budget set aside for procurement of goods and services in the financial years from 2016 to date is shown on the table on page 19, which goes up to page 20. And that table explains the budget every financial year. For example, this financial year 2022-2023, we have a budget for procurement, which is about 2.5 billion shillings, and out of which 448 million shillings approximately is reserved for AGPO, that is access to government procurement opportunities for youths, persons with disabilities, and women entities, and approximately 308 million is reserved for the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative achievement. The procurement disaggregation of budget is for the previous years is provided in that table that spills over to page 20. Honorable Chair and members, the number of youths, women and persons with disability whose goods and services have been procured in the by the Kenya Prison Service since the relevant law entered into force. The table is provided for since 2016-2017 financial year until the 2022-2023 financial year. That table is provided on page in these protected groups. Number 2, there has been by bidders also their younger officers to be promoted while they are still in service, and that will go a long way in improving the morale of the officers. I submit, Honorable Chair.
Thank you so much for that presentation. And it's now time for members to ventilate, ask questions, clarifications, comments. And I start with Engineer Zengo.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity. I want to take this opportunity to thank the CS for the presentation and also for getting time to be with us here today. We know he has a busy schedule every day, and I also want to personally thank him for having taken time to visit my constituency and helping me solve some problems there. Now, coming to the submission of to the report today, I have made a couple of observations. First, it's good to appreciate that no ethnic community has been left out in the prisons, in Kenya prisons. But there are a number of imbalances that I've observed in the submission, and I'll try to capture the many that I can capture, and then the rest of the members can contribute on the same. Now, when CS, I note that out of the current workforce of Kenya prisons, the 5 major communities of Kenya currently constitute 64.249% of the entire workforce. That is a serious imbalance. So much as we appreciate that you've just recently been appointed in that position, maybe the staff of your organization may be given an opportunity to explain to the committee why we have 64.249 out of 45 communities of Kenya being taken up by 5 major communities. Number 2, the other observation is that much as we had not indicated that the percentages were necessary, it has become very difficult to interrogate this document because of lack of percentages. We have had to work it out ourselves, and normally we would not admit a document of this form, but because of the level that is involved today, maybe we have made an exception. Chair, you will have to guide on that one. But having said that, I will refer you to page 10 on the lower level, lower cadre staff, which is constables to senior sergeant. And my question is, why would you have people that are 61, 62, and 63 years old at the levels of the lower level? What explanation can be given? Those people should have served in that organization for a very long time. And then again, I will then draw your attention to the question on the employees before August 2020 and today. And again, you realize that the 5 major communities, during that time, they
uhalifu na kutojali sheria.
We have to work hard so that we can justify the faith, the commitment, the sacrifice you have made to make us who we are.
I am really, Your Excellency, very impressed by the Kidik style of management. Akiamua ni hapa, hata kama ikuta anapitia hapa.
so many people have done.
No, any graduates have done mathematics.
Okay, finally, so I have many, but
I concur with the engineer. He always does good mathematics for us.
But
So,
any
but-
graduate does mathematics.
so the last one is that CS has mentioned. Now I will skip the rest, but I know this one, maybe someone has not captured it. Yeah, but one thing the CS said is that he was talking about uniformed officers. He never mentioned anything about non-uniformed. What does that mean? Does it mean that there is also another category of staff that he has left out in this presentation? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, CS, I think as we have listened to you through, you will also listen to us through. Tell everybody else to take records so that we'll react to these things at a go. Honorable Yusuf.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for making his time to come and respond to our inquiries. I also want to encourage him to come to our Nairobi constituencies. I hear good compliments that you have been visiting. Some of us had even had difficulty seeing you in your office, so I hope you put that on your calendar. My take is on the people with disabilities. You didn't spend a lot of time. I made inquiries. I had missed that particular section, but there's no percentage for people with disabilities. But if I could calculate, it's 0.9 if I follow the 2.9. If I follow the example of my brother, who has given us percentages, that is below, extremely below the requirement. Article 54, subsection 2, specifically says the state shall ensure the implementation of at least 5% of people with disabilities in elected and appointed positions. And I see here there's a major shortcoming. And I also think there's a perception in institutions like the Ministry of Interior that disability is inability, that people with disabilities cannot perform specific functions that are required of them in uniformed forces. And I think that is terribly wrong. In fact, there are two institutions in my own neighborhood, or that come from my neighborhood, that employ entirely people with disabilities, and they're doing quite a good job. So I think this is a deliberate and an intentional purpose on part of those officials under your supervision, and it is a clear violation of our Constitution as far as Article 254 and 232 of the Constitutions are concerned, and which you have been sworn to uphold. So I want to say that we should take that up, and I want to know what actions, concrete actions, are you taking as a Cabinet Secretary to address that. And then the second point that I have noted is that what is the reason for spelling out some specific communities? For example, the Somali community is described in many groups, more than any other ethnic group that you have on this list. Is there a reason for that? Why there are 10, 15 subsections of that particular community? Why is that not the case with the other, with the Kisis, with the Merus, with the Kalenjins, with the Kikuyus that you have on this list? I think this is weaponization of identity. It is cannibalization. It is balkanization. And it's not good for our national cohesion. It should be eliminated. And I want to assure you that I would support you, but when you have this little percentage of little groups, it's not possible to make sense of whether we are doing. And then finally, I wanted to know who are the other Kenyans? This is a very small percentage. Do we have other Kenyans? Why are we describing them as other Kenyans? Thank you.
Honorable Jane.
Point of order, Chair. Thank you, members. I appreciate that had been said, whereby we had called several. That is what is anchored in the Constitution and the Act. You remember over 10 organizations coming with the documents without percentage, then we had set a precedent of referring them back to put their house in order with percentage, Chair. So I wanted the Chair, before we proceed, I wanted to know that now this team which has visited us, are we treating them special? And why is it that we have declined in the precedents which we have been set? Number two, that one is on HR. When I go now to procurement.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
Point of order, you're not giving these people special attention. Can I respond? About questions of procurement.
No, I'm procurement. Actually, the procurement part of it is to one thing. The only thing we. But now, he has also listed the companies which has benefited. We don't know those companies. He has not even attached even minutes of tender evaluation committee as a sample. He has not even attached the letter of awards and certificates of on the AGBO. They also benefit from 70%, not only 30%. That information is not there. So, as a Committee of National Cohesion, our work is to do what we call institutional audit. In the absence of all this information, the same way we had set a precedent before. Thank you, my honest observation and comment.
Okay, Honorable Were, thank you for that. But this is the disadvantage of coming late.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to first thank the Cabinet Secretary for a good job he's doing in Laikipia. Though now we are having illegal grazers, you need to come in and help us. Then, next question. CS, allow me to politely remind you, there are only 3 things in this country. We need the illegal grazers out. So I proceed to my questions, and one of my colleagues had alluded to it, Chair. I would want to bring our attention to question number 2, which asks about Article 54, Section 2 of the Constitution in regards to the representation of persons living with disability. The question remains unanswered because we'd have expected to see if you have met the 5 of 92 officers plus another 30 who are trained, so are above 60 years. My question would be, what is their special disability for them to have their contracts extended? Then page 10 gets me a challenge of career progression in the service, but we have so many people retiring still at the junior level. And I don't know if the ones at 59 years who are now 189, you may sympathize with them again and extend their contracts in the sympathy of their ending their careers as junior officers. Kindly let's look at that, because even if you look at it upwards, you can still tell there are so many officers who will still retire at junior levels. That said, I also have a question in regards to who is Somali. For the first time I'm hearing that. Number 41.
Honorable Jen, Mary.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank our very busy CS for a concise and informative presentation. Of course, I share similar observations, concerns and sentiments with my colleagues, but I have one question. Bona CS, you said you'd like to see your young people ascend to management level at an early age. I'm just wondering what to see that happen, because I think it's a great idea. And welcome to Moya. Thank you.
Can you give him to introduce himself? Mheshimiwa, just introduction. Come late, so you'll be the last to be given opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm Honorable Mwalimu Hari Kombe, MP Magarini, Kilifi County, Shakahola.
Karibu Mwalimu Shakahola. No hand raised? Okay. Duncan, DMM.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me also to congratulate CS Professor Kidiki for personally taking charge of the ministry and appearing in person before the committee. That is commendable. It is a first, and I want to acknowledge. My question, CS, the second compliment I want to give is wide representation in terms of the Kenyan ethnic communities. Although I think what they have prepared against the official document that shows to comply with the AGPO requirement. Because all the other years, we have not managed the 30%. And that would be a worrying, it's a worrying trend or pattern for the department. The department that has a presence in literally every corner of this country. The second omission on that area is that the AGPO requirement does not just require you to reserve and award. It also requires you to pay within a certain timelines. That detail, again, I don't know whether it is by omission or commission, it is conspicuously lacking. And therefore, that means we cannot really be able to score you accurately on your performance in that area. Lastly, although this may not have been included, we have the question of pending bills. And as you know, I am home. I represent one of the constituencies, one of the biggest institutions in Kingongo prisons. And the story there is not very good in terms of pending bills and the treatment of my suppliers there. And on the same vein, again, of the main subject here, there's the question of the centralization of procurement in the department. Because we think that these institutions ought to be engines for stimulating local economies. But when I have the supplies in Kingongo, largely dominated by suppliers from, not supporting the local economic, the local community, and therefore the local economy, I have reason to worry about the economic survival of my people and the constituency. Thank you, Chair.
No worry, Chair. And I'm happy when he actually spoke about the issue of procurement, especially of challenges. You've spoken challenges facing other categories, but the challenges of people with disability didn't come out. I know there are so many challenges about the issue of people with disability. And if we don't get the challenges, then we may not even get the answers or how to address the issue. There must be a challenge. And the challenge is maybe the challenge we may not get the answer, Banasias. So leaders, for all of us, that today we want to note that the institution here, that nothing is mentioned. Financial year 20, if you go back to a table on page 19 and page the column of 2017 and 20, the financial year, there is nothing that is implicated about the budget. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, my vice. About people living with disability, and she's a voice, I assure you guys. Mudhoni.
Thank you, Chair. First, I wish to appreciate the CS and his team for the presentation. Also, I want to appreciate Waziri for your good work you're doing in Lamu, although we're still having a lot of challenges because my people are it's very unfortunate. With regards to the have indicated that they are working very hard to bridge the gap. Honorable Chair, that gap is going to be bridged because the prisons being a collectional service, given our nurturing nature as women, and so we would appreciate a clear framework. The prisons is going to recruit like 100% women next time, or what are the clear frameworks, Waziri? Because this we shine best at nurturing and being collective as women. So where we fit, please allow us to fit and do the job. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Were.
Thank you, Chair, again. 2010 Constitution was not brought in vain as far as employment is concerned, because wealth distribution goes with employment. That's why this act was brought. I'm very happy with the outline of the staffing within the prisons before 2010, which we agree and they agree they are imbalances, and we rule it is historical. When you look at the tables, 3 communities, allow me to mention, before 2010, Kalenjin, Kamba, Kikuyu, Loya, Luos, and Merians dominated it. Then now, when the presenter is a former legislator, a very prominent. Can you explain to us why deep in could not be done in the prisons to attain why the Constitution is flawed with this? Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, point of information.
Who needs information?
All of us, I think. Yeah. if you'll allow.
Okay.
I think
Okay,
it is also paramount that this debate about dominance in this country is. The Constitution requires equity. The laws that we have passed to actualize the Constitution have also put thresholds, perpetrated dominance. Then it is incumbent upon us as legislators to change the law. Prisons has not. If I look at the figures here, none of.
Thank you, Chair. And I said, Chair, this is a very powerful and a good CS. Because, Chair, there have been powerful CSs. I just have 2 issues. One, but there are constituencies that have many districts because of their dynamics. What do you do to achieve it on its own? Yet you do recruitment in 3-4 points in other constituencies. What do you do to achieve fairness and to make sure that at the point you are able to accommodate the diversity of each constituency? Specifically constituency, because that's where one. I'm a beneficiary of the CS and specifically his ministry, because able to receive birth certificates at the district point. While recruiting any officer, because you are able to overcome with time. For instance, you're recruiting 2,000 coming recruited with gender to make sure that 30% of the people who are coming in will be from either gender. That can only happen in a different place.
Okay. Okay.
The groups in the Mijikenda, and they have been listed: the Jibana, the Kambe, the Kauma, the Ribe, and the Rabai. That was Mijikenda 40,000, and then we have the other small groups in unfairly treated when it comes to the recruitment. All doesn't go well. You find, and sorry to state this, but if you want, I can bring some people. At least 5 recruited. Thereafter, go to some place and people take money there. And at the end of it all, you find someone has been taken.
Chair, I just Googled, and I Googled the word vulgar. Is my proposal to have 100% women recruited. Can you withdraw, Chair?
Honorable Onesmus Bokoyo, can you withdraw and apologize? Yeah, on the use of using an unparliamentary language in a parliamentary meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I withdraw. It was uncouth, but I apologize.
Okay. Thank you so much. The CS, you can see the vibrant team that I have. After they have asked everything, I have nothing to add to. But I have to stress some of the issues that they have already raised, and the first one being about the disability. I mean 0.29. And what the law says is 5% minimum. It's not only 5%. You can as well go to 10%, 15%. That will 5%. You are not even nearby. And institutional, we don't expect that. So we want to know what strategy you are going to put in place before we call you next for the same issue. Our strategy is to be calling the organizations we are calling now again to see the progress, maybe in a year's time or so. So can you please give us strategy of how you will at least get that minimum threshold that is required by law. Number two, gender. These days in most of the organization we see the other gender, the male gender, is in danger. But in prison, you are not able to fulfill the 30% required by the law. You are at 23. And prison is, as some of my colleagues said, correctional services. Even in homes, is the mothers which act as correctional services at home to correct the children during their upbringing. So, prisons, we don't expect you to go below the 30%. It is unconstitutional, and you have not complied with the law as far as that is concerned. The other issue is, as my very able member of Nyeri Town MP says, you have done very well, that there is no community which is above 30%. Actually, there is an amendment in the House now from this committee, which is going to reduce that to about 1/5 will be how many? 20% in the near future. But we are not now begging you on that. But still, you are not on, there's no any community above 30%. But if out of the 47 communities, only 4 of them or 5 of them are 60%, now it's not a specific community, then it's still unfair. By law, you might be protected, you are okay, you have not gone by above 30%, but if you have only concentrated on 5 communities, and that's 60%, 5, and then 42 communities are 40%, then you need to pull up your socks and show some compliance there. Another issue is about the gender still is the same almost everywhere. Yes, a lot of this has been said, so I don't want to repeat. I want just to stress a few of these. When it comes to procurement, when it comes to challenges, challenge like resistance to change. Very well, but to change, who is the, or is it your staff who are resistant to change? We need some clarification who are resistant to change. And then still under challenges, number 2, I'm seeing something called sensitizing officers on, we don't have any ex-soldier also here. So please explain what Imam Parade means there. And then under procurement, if you look at the letter from the Parliament, the last paragraph, it says the committee requires you to submit 20 hard copies. That has not been done. One, we have received everything here today. I don't think. Then where are the supporting documents? when we talk of 30% to the AGBO, to the disability, to the women, to the youth, we require some sort of supportive document. We require samples of certificates of somebody. That's the only way we can verify these are AGBO sector of the community. But if you just say, like the way you have put it, then it is very unfortunate. We shall not know. So no supporting documents. Finally, under procurement still, there is no one time. I think it is only one time you have reached the 30% for AGBO. If I give you an example of 2022-23, you had only 17%. Very far from the 30% again. Very far. You know, if you are 20-something, we are saying you are almost approaching the 30%. You are with 1 or 2 steps of improvement, you will be there. But when you are at 17%, the final year, 2022-23, then you are very fast. So can you give us a strategy of how you will move on that? Finally, we said from the start of the meeting, at the end of the meeting, after you have responded to all this, we need this document to be enriched. 1, all percentages should be there. 2, so I make my conclusive remark, which I'll make after your responses. You are now respond to those very few questions that has been asked.
Thank you, Chair. Chair and members, we first of all thank you for listening to us, even if as it has come out that we should have done better. We thank you for your directive you've given, such that our presentation, because we are not going to change a single, but with your permission and the permission of the committee, then we can do the extra job and research physically, where we include the percentages, where we give you supporting documents for the procurement and related facts that we've presented, and make sure that I promise you, Chair, next time we'll be fully compliant ahead of time, including submitting all that at least 5 days before appearance. And thank you, Chair, for being kind on us. We don't take it for granted. Chair, I agree with the sentiments that there is work to do, and I agree that our correctional services and the prisons fall short of the constitutional requirements on several fronts in terms of inclusivity, diversity, etc. That we do not dispute. I agree with the members that we need to relook at the inclusivity, ethnic inclusivity afresh, so that on the one side, we don't also criminalize communities that perhaps are more than other communities. And I think what we need to do to be able to be constitutionally aligned is first to make sure that the number of staff and officers from every community match the population dynamics of that community. That is the fairest thing to do. And that is something I promise I am going to sit with my team, and I will ensure that the next time I appear here, I'll report progress. We have to comply, and we cannot allow certain communities of our country to feel excluded. And we're going to develop a matrix and a roadmap of ensuring that equity, so that more populous communities have more people, but also every community, including the smallest, must be represented There should be no community with a zero. And we'll go out of our way to make sure that when we do recruitment, we will reach out and sensitize every community to make sure that they participate and they apply. And where, as I said earlier on, for whatever reasons, which are historical and structural problems, some of the requirements cannot be met, we'll ask for waiver, which is also allowed in our constitution and the laws, to make sure that every part of Kenya is represented. Chair, and therefore, subject to your directives, we would request for, if possible, 7 days to resubmit the new documents, but so that we get everything in order. Then there was the question around many officers retiring at the lower cadres. Again, that is a problem of succession management, which I'm addressing, in the sense that, of course, not everybody should rise from constable to commissioner general. It's not possible in any organization for various reasons. The levels of discipline, competencies, hard work are not the same. But we are worried when so many officers stagnate in junior positions for long. And when I came in between the PS and the CGP, we worked out a program where we have started expediting the promotions with the support, I must say, of the Public Service Commission. Because we found out for many years there are officers who have been constables of prisons for 15 years, 16 years, and the morale of such an officer will not exist. They will not. We cannot justify why somebody can be a constable of prisons for 21 years, 22 years. The same is happening in the National Police Service, and we are working around it. Unless, if it is the policy in the future, if somebody is hired as a constable for life, as it happens in other countries, then they will know they are constables. Yes, if it's a prisons or a police constable, you are within the constabular ranks, and you are only promoted as a constable, but constable 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. But the current legal and policy framework we have inordinately too many officers spending a long time on junior positions, and that has affected the morale of our men and women in uniform. We'll correct it, and we'll be reporting progress every year on what we are doing to correct that. We also, Chair, if you allow me, we're also working on succession management at the leadership. As you've seen, and it was the case also for the National Police Service until some times back, we have been unable to ensure we professionalize the Kenya Prison Service and make it attractive enough that its leadership is grown from within, and it is automatic. It's almost predetermined in the sense that somebody can actually plan. If you're a good officer with good skills, you can actually rise and get promoted. As you're aware at the moment, and I'm not blaming the current Commissioner General of Prisons, he's from the military. And we have sat down with him. He shares the same views as I do, that should stop, because it's demoralizing when other disciplined forces are coming to lead in another discipline force. We used to have the same issue even with the National Police Service until the legal amendments of around 10 years ago. We are going to do the same for the Kenya prisons. I have made it clear this is the last time we are going to have an officer outside the Kenya Prison Service leading the Kenya Prison Service, because it demoralizes the officers who we recruit every year if they cannot aspire to rise top and so forth. So we are working on that area, on succession management, career progressions, promotions, and much of it has been addressed in the Presidential Task Force report. It's only that I didn't want to preempt it. The report is ready. I think it will be presented to the President by the task force chair, Justice Maraga, on Wednesday next week. And much of it we have addressed it. That reform has been addressed at that level. The officers who are over 60 in lower ranks are persons with disability who retire at 65. The lower ranks. I said the lower rank because we also have officers in senior management who are above 60. Those ones are beneficiaries of extended contracts at senior level. And we've said that that has come to an end. We will not be doing that anymore. Those who are lower level are there at 65 years. Then, Chair, there was a category known as other Kenyans. I'm informed that is mainly the Nubians who are been in this country for ages, but there are issues around citizenship which continue to which are being resolved. But you know, Nubians have somehow found their way into the public service because they are Kenyans anyway, and they're part of our society. I agree with the member for Kamukunji, and I agree. I think as much as I visit the rest of the country, I should also be visiting Nairobi. But I agree with the member for Kamukunji when he says that the disaggregation of the Somali into clans is not helpful. Why we've done that is because of the demands at the local level when we go to recruit. They tell us, you know, we have this clan, we have this other one, we have this other one, and they would like every of their segment to be represented. I agree that, and that also responds to the question raised by the member for Magarini, the Honorable Kombe Mwalimu, because it is true, if it is the Mijikenda, we need to do intra-community equity. Because you can say Mijikenda only to realize that maybe it's only the Duruma or only the Chonyi. You can do that too, but our position, Chair, is that we should stick to the communities in our reporting, the ethnic communities officially recognized in Kenya. Yes. And there are 45.
47.
But yes, and 47, but over and above that, as diversities, such as the Mijikenda, such as the Somali, we can be attaching, but we should start with. I've also been asked to met many of the people with disability, women and youth. As much as we want to comply with the law, NAGPO, we have to centralization of procurement, an institution that is located, and we have institutions across Kenya and institutions across Kenya from that general area, instead of importing people from elsewhere. So we discourage, so that going forward we can start paying suppliers promptly. Samples and documents that show who are the actual successful beneficiaries. Parades which are for pass out and other whatever, these are